Hey everybody, it's Casey,
And Stephanie.
and we're back to talk with you about U.S. Women's National Team, Olympics, women's soccer, the whole thing, and more probably random frolics into our Walnut Creek history. So thanks again for listening to us. And Stephanie, what are you enjoying from the last few days of Olympics that's not soccer?
Well, I won't take yours because she was far more entertaining. So if anyone can guess before she gets there, I'll be impressed. My favorites from yesterday were the track and field races. There was some great 4x400, both men's and women's. We took the gold. For the women's had a huge lead. It was actually kind of humorous, the cameraman trying to pan between the winner and the second and third place. So that was exciting. There was a jump off in the high jump. Could have split the gold and added to our gold medal count, but our athlete decided he wanted to have a jump off and New Zealand took the win. So yeah. So tell us about your favorite, Casey.
Okay, so I am in the group of people who obviously discovered Ray Gunn on Friday, and I took this too far. So I saw the memes on Twitter like everybody else and was like, "Oh my goodness, how did this happen?" And then proceeded to spend my entire day watching. I caught onto this like right as quarters for breaking or starting. So I got to watch all of that, and that was very confusing. I don't understand how any of this stuff is judged. But, then I went back, and so I watched, like, I can tell you the timestamps too if you need them on Peacock. It's like the 29th minute of breaking qualifiers, the 1 hour 20th minute of breaking qualifiers, and I believe the 2 hour 3rd minute of breaking qualifiers. And by the way, I am doing this off the top of my head. I do not have a note sheet. That is just how obsessed I was with
Wow.
watching her again. And you can watch her full rounds. And they're I don't think that Twitter gets to see like the sheer confidence with which this woman carries herself. Like there is like a trash talking element, which I think is I can't tell if it's like appropriate for a breaking competition or inappropriate, but I thought it was like maybe just part of the vibe. But nobody else seemed to be doing it. Although I've been told by Sky from Shea Butter FC and I were on Twitter back and forth a little bit because I guess she used to compete in breaking and was like, I have many thoughts about the women's competition, and it was, there were I don't think there were any black judges, which is bizarre given where breaking originates from. And then the DJ was off, and there was a lot of just weirdness in the quarters and semis, I guess, which tracks for us too, because I was watching with a couple friends and we were also just going back and forth. And we're like, how did that person beat that person? But anyway, so Reagan, back to this. She has since like done some interviews that indicate she's aware that her dance choices were non-traditional. And
Yeah.
basically what she's apparently said is she knew she had no shot in hell at beating the people that were actually competing when it came to more traditional, breaking because her technique is just not there. So she figured why not try some new stuff. I was deeply entertained. I
Yep.
think most of the internet was deeply entertained. These were great memes. I like there's a lot of the internet seems to be split between people who find this like delightful and people who are like very upset. And I think the people that are very upset seem to be mostly Australian. And
Yes. That's the
yeah,
sense I got. Although most of my algorithm was people loving it. So
like
I
I
think,
don't anything that requires like not a score or a metric and not like this is different from gymnastics where there's like some kind of scoring rubric or something. It seems to be you're just going off vibes, and I'm sure they have ways they're supposed to score these as judges. But this does not seem dissimilar to when I judge competitive karaoke. Like there is, in theory, there's things I'm supposed to think through, but like ultimately, I'm just kind of going with whoever I was vibing with, and there's a reason that's not in the Olympics. So I think this is probably a one and done. But Ray Gunn, PhD Rachel
yep.
Gunn. Thank you for the memories. You've inspired a lot of people to probably practice at home.
Well, I
So,
think honestly, I loved her explanation. I thought her whole explanation was inspiring. She knew she was up against
yeah,
some real professionals, and she said, "You know what? I'm gonna make a name for myself another way." You know?
yeah. And I will say I went far enough down the rabbit hole, as you know, that I went and found her qualifier because I was like, please explain. I need to know how she got here. Like I went and watched the Oceania qualifier. And I think it was pretty. I only saw the final round between her and a woman named Molly. And it didn't seem like, I don't think she like paid off anybody here. I think that is just the level of the region maybe, or they're not doing a good enough job getting people who actually know how to break to come to the competitions. I don't know. But there's always something like this a little bit at the Olympics, and I enjoyed her a lot more than the woman who competed for Hungary several years back in this snowboarding, who was just like looked for a loophole to get to the Olympics, and then basically just kind of like went down the ramp. Like, she just was like checking a box. I think Reagan really did give this her all, so for that we'll give her some credit. But
I'm going to give you credit for sticking with calling it breaking the whole time, because I can't break my break dancing reference.
Well, I'm trying, because the nice part about this is another example of bullying works, because as much as I clown on my people in my comments from England, I do try to be a little more precise with the wording, because I don't want them in my comment section. So
yeah.
Worked for breaking as well. In addition, so track, I love the 4x400. I like the women's because they were out. It was to your point comically. And then I just found myself cheering for Ireland because they're probably never going to be there again. Like, let's just get a medal. And they almost did. Basketball, both men's and women's, fun finals. Steph Curry, team on his back. Bay Area, obviously, you gotta represent it. So, I mean, he was great. And
it was so fun to watch.
It was very fun to watch. And I also enjoyed everybody on Twitter who was like, I finally understand why Warriors fans are the way they are. Because he was just that good. And then, obviously, A'ja Wilson today for the US women in the second half was fantastic. And then we got to shout out France, Gabby Williams, who is apparently, she's American and French, and she plays for France. And, like, talking about taking a team on her back. But, like, literally, buzzer beater shot, her foot just goes over the line, so it's 2 points instead of 3, and 3 would have tied it up. So, a little bit gutting for her, but she was just a star out there. And I looked, I was like, she's gotta be playing in the WNBA, and she's not. I guess she's playing in the Turkish league now, so, but she was super impressive. So, that was... I think that's pretty much, like, is that everything? There's, like, we've covered, that's pretty much 2 days of sports besides women's soccer. Oh, Swedish men's beach volleyball won.
Okay.
Which is, I think, important to note. And it was dominant. They've been very dominant. I don't know a lot about beach volleyball, but my beach volleyball friends tell me they're, like, reinventing the game. So
the Swedish team is?
Yes. That's what I've been told.
In what way? How do you reinvent beach volleyball?
They're just, like, I think positionally, what they're doing, my understanding is, on defense is a little bit different, but I don't know a ton about volleyball, and I just look at them in the sand, and even when you play, like, 6-on-6 in beach volleyball, I'm exhausted. Yeah. So, I don't know how these people that play, like, the traditional 2v2, I don't get it.
I know.
Good on them. We have our comment of the week, which was not a public one, but it was one that was mentioned privately to us. If you missed last week's episode, we were talking about, somewhat randomly, famous people that went to our high school. Mm-hmm. And our brother-in-law, and just for context, because I think brother-in-law and sister-in-law get used in ways that are a little bit strange, so let's just explain this real quick. Yes. So Stephanie and I are both married to, like, they're triplets. There's 3 of them. So they all went to the same high school as us as well, and Stephanie married her high school sweetheart. I then married one of the triplets, but we met in Santa Monica. We were not there at the same time. People often ask us if we are high school sweethearts when they find out we are from the same place, and then we have to inform them that due to our age difference, that would be very inappropriate. So we are not. And then there's Jen. So and then Jen is married to our other brother-in-law, and she has no affiliation with Walnut Creek. So, but she's tried, I guess. I always feel a little bit bad for her on that. So, Jen's husband, Chris, is the one who has pointed out to us that we missed a fact about famous Northgate alum Eva Marie. And that is that Eva Marie, Natalie
Nelson.
It's Natalie Marie Nelson. Natalie Marie Nelson is actually not only a Northgate alum, but played on the soccer team there. And according to our brother-in-law, was a terrifying person. And I don't think he meant that derogatorily. I think he just meant that he met her when he was a sophomore in high school and was very intimidated. by her ability to pull off the gel crunch hair. So just want to make sure.
Soccer player turned WWE wrestler, Walnut Creek celebrity, you know?
Yeah.
Quite a trajectory.
I don't think she comes back and does any events though. Like, I feel like she should do like a Walnut Festival.
Oh yeah.
That would be...
she's on to bigger and better things. Although the Walnut Festival is fantastic.
Yul Kwan at least like comes back and speaks at commencement once in a while. Stays, locked into the community. So. Okay, so with that frolic over, let's talk briefly about the bronze medal match. If you missed it, Germany beat Spain 1-0. I don't think there was a ton here to discuss, other than, of course, that Spain got a penalty in the dying minutes of additional time, and Berger, as she has done, has another fantastic penalty save. She just, I think Alyssa Nair made a case for herself in the gold medal match to be goalkeeper of the tournament, as we will talk about. But it's really, really hard to deny AKB, because she's just, I think in terms of like goalkeepers that kept their own team in this, it's her. She just had a fantastic tournament.
Yeah. I felt bad for them having to sit at the gold medal match. They were all like looking at their phones, waiting for the game to be over. It's so sad. They make them do that.
Yeah, just because they need the podium picture. So
I know. But they just sit there watching that whole match. I mean, I guess it's the same with any other sport, but that's kind of a unique situation, I feel.
Well, and it's funny too, because one would think like you'd be interested to see how the final goes, but like you're really not. And like
at that point,
no, you're like, I won bronze. I don't really care. Like, let's just get my medals and move on. And then also, I think it comes back to 2 points. One is I'm not sure how important the bronze medal is really in like the women's soccer community. I think it's not that important. And the second point is sometimes we talk about when people vote for these like player awards and like the best 11 and whatever. And they're like, I don't understand how they got this wrong. And I have to always say, the people playing this sport watch significantly less of it than any of us sitting at home, because it's their work. Like, you're not going to go... True. I do go watch a lot of like true crime stuff, but like that's kind of a different flavor of my work. Yeah. But I'm not going to go like, watch somebody else's personal injury trial on my own time. I mean, I do sometimes, and it's like a really exciting one. Yeah. I'm not like nerding out over it. Not that there are people nerding out over personal injury trials in any capacity, but
I mean, we could do a whole episode where I just ask you questions about personal injury trials. So save that for another day.
Yeah, another day, another frolic. But yeah, I felt bad for them. I think Germany, just in terms of like looking for Germany and for Spain here, they, unlike what we'll talk about with the US and with Brazil, they have Euros next summer. So they have another major tournament to gear towards. Germany's coach is not continuing past the Olympics. He was basically brought in to kind of pinch hit here. And I don't know what's going to happen to Monse from Spain, who, got brought in or promoted really when Jorge Vilda was off the team. So I don't think the players like her. I don't think there's a lot of like strong coaching going on. But I also think this federation is completely messed up, and they'll probably just keep her there. So we'll see. But Spain didn't seem to have anything salty to say about this loss.
Okay.
I guess it's more embarrassing if you're complaining about losing bronze.
They're just over it, probably.
Yeah.
On to the next.
Well, speaking about on to the next, let's talk about the gold medal match. USA, Brazil. USA, you may have heard already, won this one 1-0. And let's be honest about it. This was probably the worst the team has played this tournament, if we're being brutally honest.
I agree, but I also, maybe it was just because it was the gold medal energy, but I was still very entertained this game. I wasn't falling asleep, I'll put it that way.
Yeah, well, and it wasn't, we had our backs against the wall, and it wasn't, USA Japan, where again that mid block with no real threat on the way out was a rough watch for everybody. Mm-hmm. But Brazil looked good. They kept the first half entertaining. Brazil, we adjusted and started with a double pivot, which I do think was the correct call. And so that meant that Rose Lavelle did not start. In her place, they started Corbin Albert because that's pretty much who can play the double pivot. One question that I've gotten kind of frequently pre-match was, if Tierna Davidson is in, why are you not putting Emily Sonnet into the double pivot then if she's healthy? And then if Tierna Davidson needs to come off, you just slide Sonnet back. And there's a couple reasons for that. I think if Emily Sonnet had gone into the double pivot, where she hasn't been playing in the midfield this tournament, she has only played center back this tournament, and it doesn't go well, and you need to adjust quickly. If you sub her off and then sub Corbin Albert on, you can't sub Emily Sonnet back on when Tierna Davidson needs to come off. So I think that's why that happened. Tierna Davidson did end up needing to come off midway through the second half, which was probably planned. So I think starting Corbin was probably the correct call with the personnel that were there. I do see where you think Emily Sonnet could have come in. I think this game actually would have benefited from Emily Sonnet in the midfield quite a bit, just because she's chaotic. But she is like that's for me. I'm like, everybody's like, well, where does Emily Sonnet belong? I'm like, when you just need something to shake up, throw her in your midfield. Let her do her thing. She's so good at that.
Create chaos. I like that.
Yeah, no, she is. That's just like, I don't expect her to get a game under control or like, but it's just if you just need to like show something different, like she's so good for that. But we did with the double pivot successfully, I think, clog the midfield so they couldn't break through the same ways they were going at Spain. What they did instead, though, was they attacked from their left side, not our right side, very successfully in the first half. Ludmilla, who's going to Chicago Red Stars, was fantastic. She made Emily Fox and Naomi Girma look like average defenders, which is saying something.
Ooh.
So Trinity Rodman had to pull back quite a bit to get back there, and we just weren't generating anything forward. And I think ultimately, one, you saw noticeable fatigue on Naomi Girma, noticeable fatigue on Emily Fox. And Naomi Girma was like, if you've ever been to a wedding where the cha-cha slide is going a little too long and like your feet are getting stuck in and you're like, oh god, we gotta cha-cha real smooth again. And it's like you just feel off balance because your feet, that's what was happening to Naomi Girma.
Got it. That explains it.
Yeah, no, thank you for that, right? But that's just, it's so crucial to be able to stay light on your feet. It's one of the things that she is so good at, and when you get tired, you can't do that. So I'm like, because I think this is a very common issue within many sports. Like I think it happens in tennis, it can happen in soccer, it can happen in boxing, it can happen everywhere. But everybody's done the cha-cha slide at a wedding, so I know. And a bit of alcohol, but yeah, so it was a bummer, but I think two things changed at halftime. The first being I think the lighting and the sun in their eyes really impacted people's ability to distribute.
It impacted my ability to watch the game.
Right, because like if it was in the shadow, you couldn't even see. It was hard to see what was going on.
My eyes, they would just have to keep readjusting.
Yeah.
It's like me trying to follow a golf ball.
Oh no, yeah, I gave up on watching golf long ago. I mean, not that I had any interest in doing it, but
yeah, like, I can't imagine playing with that sun in your eyes.
No, especially fatigued already, because I think when you're fatigued, those types of things really start to become difference makers. So that was one thing that I think changed a lot. And then in addition, Brazil had an injury to midfielder Victoria and did have to make some changes there. And I think she had been playing quite well. And have been doing quite a bit more work than people appreciated defensively to keep the US from breaking out. So once those two things happened, it was a little bit better from the US, but I still think Brazil outplayed us. And you know what? That's okay though. Sometimes you get the win when you're not the better team on the field. And there's something to be said for that.
Agreed.
So
got the gold. But I do feel a little bit bad for Marta. But she seemed to take it well.
Yeah, I mean, well, she's been here before.
Yeah. I know. That's how I felt. I mean, she's never won an Olympics or doesn't have a single world title. Is that correct?
No.
Yeah.
That is correct. And okay, wait, we have to talk about one of my favorite moments from the game that was not soccer. And so Julie Foudy did not trot out the direct free kick stat, to my knowledge. If she did, I blacked it out.
I didn't. No, I was trying to listen for it. I don't think I heard it.
But what she did do, that was just delightful. She starts talking about like this Brazilian team with this history and how it looks different than it has for other Brazilian teams with this new bunch. And I'm thinking she's going to talk about like a more recent team. And she starts literally naming the roster of the 1999 Brazilian women's team. She's like, Christian, Cece, Formiga. I'm like, and then she's like, Katya. And I'm like, oh, like, Julie, I don't think any of these, like, maybe some of them were in 2003. And obviously, like, Christian and, like, a couple and Formiga, like, they played, like
Regardless,
Formiga
that was
played
over
Europe.
20 years ago.
Yeah, but, like, the Katya, I don't know if she even played 2003, man. Like, I don't know if she did that. Like, maybe 2003. I'm not 100% sure. I'm not even sure. I don't think Cece did. Because, like, Cece, like, if she did, 2003 was the last for Cece and for Katya. But, like, she just is talking about, and I'm going, Julie, babe, like, it's been 25 years. It's been 20. Nobody listening to this knows who Katya is. Nobody, like, I
Not me.
don't, you don't know. I know because she played for the Bay Area Cider Rays in the
Okay.
WUSA. That's the only reason. And then Cece was my coach at one point. So
Oh,
that's why I know who these people are. Otherwise, I would be sitting here like, and Cece also played for the Cider Rays.
okay.
So, and Cece still coaches in Walnut Creek, by the way.
Oh,
So,
all these fun facts about Walnut Creek.
I know, who knew? It's really like the epicenter of the community for some reason. But, you know, that was bizarre. It was so weird. It was such a weird thing to bring up, and bless her for it. Thank you, Julie Foudy. Like, really enjoyed that moment.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Oh, it seems like she gives you a lot of talking points, which is enjoyable.
Yeah, like she does, and more so than like when we talk, because we'll, talk about NWSL at some point on here. Like, no, none of the other commentators there are giving me the type of joy that Julie Foudy gives me. So there's something to be said for that. So thank you again, Julie, for your service.
Um, can we talk about the goal?
Let's talk about the goal. So, assist from Corbin Albert and goes to Mal Swanson. Mal Swanson finishes that thing, and it was pretty close to our only real chance on goal. So
Yeah.
glad that she did that. The goal is controversial because Sophia Smith also involved in the attack and may have been in an offside position. So I've seen a couple of different readings of this, and if you are waiting to learn offside, I promise I have a video coming. This is one of the ones where I filmed the whole thing and then the audio didn't work and I haven't gone back and taped it. So I have
That'll
to
be
go
a
back.
good one, though.
It'll be a good one. So judging whether somebody's in an offside position is pretty easy. You just pause it at the moment the ball is played. Are they behind the second to last defender? If they are, they're in an offside position. If they're not offside. So if they are in an offside position, the inquiry then moves to basically involvement in the play. And that can get broken down into a couple different bullet points. Obviously, if they touch the ball or receive the ball, they're involved in the play. So that's the easy inquiry. But you also could have if they interfere with the defensive player in some way. So is it interfering with that? And that's where it becomes interesting, because the readings of the rules that I saw online from a lot of referees that do commentary on this, folks like Christina Uncle, who does it for Champions League, talked about that she's not interfering in the play because she's not like physically taking the defender out. And but I could very much see the argument, like she's straight up making a run in. As a defender, like you have to deal with that.
Mm-hmm.
So, and she's also potentially obstructing your ability to move toward the ball. So I can see a situation where somebody calls it offside as well. I think that is the most subjective part of the rule, is this idea of whether somebody's involved without touching the ball.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where I think we get into gray area stuff. And whenever you get into a gray area like that, you're short of like somebody in an offside position that also restrains a player, but then that's just a foul, right?
Yeah.
But like you're gonna go with the call that was already made on the field. So I understand the argument behind it. I understand both ways, but I do think that if the reading of the rule starts to be that you have to like physically interfere with a defender, then you're pretty much talking about like screens being legal in some way.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, potentially. So I think you can take that reading of the rule to a really far abstract place that I don't think is helpful. So, but we will see. We will see. And it was the second kind of play where the U.S. had somebody making that particular run that's a little offside. Like Lindsey Horan did that on Trinity Rodman's goal against Japan. I'm pretty sure. No, maybe it wasn't against Japan. It was a goal that she did that on. And yeah. So
But
we'll
it wasn't
see.
called, so here we are.
No, exactly. So sorry to Brazil.
I know.
Yeah. So then let's talk about the Nair save real quick. Just Alyssa Nair, just shout out to Alyssa Nair, who's player of the match. I don't think you can tell me anybody besides, if you're arguing anybody besides Alyssa Nair was player of the match, I don't have a lot of time for you, for being honest. There's not a lot of other people I would entertain as being player of the match besides Alyssa Nair. I think most other people I can't even say had like their best match. So it's Alyssa Nair. That save at the end, great. Just gets the paw out there. It's good. Like, she's just so good.
He's so good. The replay too. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh, I could have watched it a few times.
Yeah. No, she's wonderful. So let's talk a little bit about the celebrations. Stephanie, were you in the batch of people that had a hard time watching the gold medal celebration because it was not being broadcast places?
Yes, I had a hard time.
NBC has
I
done
know. It was wild. I thought something was wrong with me. I was like, am I?
No, nothing was wrong with you. It was objectively hard to find. NBC has had a phenomenal showing at this Olympics for the most part. I think Gold Zone has been a revelation. This has been the most I've by far enjoyed any Olympics because they still do the primetime coverage, but they're no longer fighting the time zone thing, which, like, thank you. It's 2024. But you got to do better with the gold medal with the medal ceremonies. And you had it on for the men's basketball, no problem. And then women's soccer, it was like, I mean, shoot, it was harder to find than when we're trying to stream European games. Like, I don't understand.
Yeah.
So, can find it back later. But
yeah, that's what I had to do, is just watch highlights.
Yeah. I mean, for me, the more exciting part is seeing the celebrations and the partying afterwards anyway. So, like, that was good. And I want to just also tell the US Women's National Team players, because I know a lot of you listen to this. And I need more of you to put the celebrations in your Instagram stories. Because it was just Crystal done. And thank you to Crystal for doing that. But we want to see it. We want to see the whole joy and be part of this with you. So thank you to Crystal. Like, them singing Cheetah Girls was great.
I miss that too. Ugh. But yeah, I love feeling a part of the celebration for sure. And I also loved the interviews with Emma Hayes post-match, where she could barely keep it together. Because I had not personally heard that coaching the US was her dream. Like, her whole life was built up to this. It was her father's dying wish for her. I hadn't heard any of that background, and then just to see her post-match barely able to string together words, she was crying. It was so special. You could just tell that she really had a lot of heart for the team and the US.
Yeah. No, I don't think you're gonna have any other coach that feels that way about the job. So, and it's such a tall task to have accomplished winning gold in 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Insane. And nobody would have. Somebody asked me at one point, like, if we don't get out of the group, is her job on the line? And I'm like, no, nobody brought her here to, like, work a miracle. She did, but like, that was not the expectation.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was really touching. I thought her moments with Lindsay Horan as well were really touching, talking about how hard Lindsay has worked as a captain. And I just think it shows that Emma's a pretty good player manager on lifting players up and getting these performances out of players. So even though I know there was a lot of controversy about her, like, pain cave soundbite the other day, and we need to see them struggle. She's talking about how they need to, like, go into their pain caves and, like, get to, like, a place where it's really hard, and then, like, that's where people are made. And I didn't take it to be this, like, you got to go run wind sprints after you lose, like Carly Lloyd kind of thing.
Yeah.
I just took it to be more, because she can often be, like, quite whimsical with her language. I just took it to be a little bit more, in those moments of struggles where people are made and we need to, like, we want people to dig deep type of thing. But it is always hard, and you want to be a little more careful, I think, with that language, just given the abuse we've seen within the game. But she gives these sound bites where she's just the language is a little weird sometimes, That's just kind of her.
Yeah.
So how are we feeling about the win? How are we feeling about returning to gold? We had not won gold since 2012.
Long time. That's pretty exciting.
So one of my friends texted me after the game and she's like, "How are you doing? Are you alive?" And I was like, "Yeah, no, I'm fine." And she's like, "I thought you'd be like completely like KO'd from excitement." And I'm like, "I don't know. It just felt very anticlimactic to me."
Oh, it did?
I
Oh,
don't know why.
well, yeah, I mean, would you have felt different if it had gone to a penalty shootout?
Probably. I think
Yeah.
it's like, I think it's also, I think it felt anticlimactic because it's like, it was one of those matches where we got a goal against the run of play and then we kind of had to hold on for dear life.
Yeah, true.
So it wasn't so much like elation as it was relief. And I
Yes.
just didn't, I haven't like felt like as a fan a huge amount of joy yet from the win. Like I
Yeah.
couldn't, the way I felt with bronze, like with bronze, it was like, we're playing for gold. And I was like excited. And then it was like, I went to make the gold medal video and I'm just like, quick thoughts.
Yes.
I didn't have that. And I don't know, I don't know if I'm gassed from talking about this tournament. I don't know if it just like, I don't know. And maybe for me, I think like I was so fully at peace with either outcome. Like for me, the win was getting to the final, I think almost as a fan. So this was a cherry on top, but it's just interesting. I haven't had that like we just won a major thing and I'm just like, yeah.
That is interesting, the psychology behind it. But I think you're right. It was, we were hanging on for dear life. It wasn't it was a little anticlimactic, like you said.
Yeah.
But I still had tears in my eyes. But again, that's just me.
Well, you get to watch all the Emma Hayes stuff really did bring tears to my eyes as well. It's very hard not to be moved by her and her story. So, and one would think that if it hadn't been enough for the gold medal, I should have personally been excited because I was vindicated on my not putting Brazil in my gold medal contenders list. Because somebody came in my comments and said, this aged poorly. And I said, not yet, because this is not a list of teams that could make the final. It seems like could win gold.
There you go.
You know, so shout out to that person.
Good job.
Yeah, I'm like,
Gold
great.
medal comment.
Yeah, gold medal comment. But it's and it's also just so funny when it's like in a universe of there were so many people that were like, the US has no shot. The US is getting grouped. Like, what are you even doing here? And you know, because it isn't, if you think about it, like there's a lot of things about this team that aren't that different in terms of personnel from the World Cup team that struggles so much. But I think it also goes to show that, you know, there was a lot of overreaction from the 2023 World Cup. It's each of these times you've been kind of working one line of the field players out. So at the World Cup, the defense was fantastic. And that carried through to this tournament. The defense was fantastic. And then in this tournament as well, we got the forward line to work. So the forward line is now also fantastic. So you've got 3 years now to sort your midfield and to build a little bit of depth with the other two lines. But, you know, we are in good shape, I would think, for 2027. And that's going to be an exciting thing to see. So shout out to every hater who said they weren't getting out of the group. They won gold.
Yeah. Take that.
Yeah. And speaking of haters, to the Euros who think NWSL is not a competitive league, NWSL had the most players on the field for the final. That has been a big talking point, and people are still feuding about it online. I never understand these conversations that well because, you know, talking about team parity and like that is the NWSL's strength is that the teams are all relatively even, although much less so this season. They're, you know, Barcelona runs away with it every year in Spain. In Germany, it's down to 2 teams. In WSL, it's down to 3 teams, really. So, you know, if that's what we're talking about, and I think that is a conversation to have, like, the NWSL wins that metric. Is it the prettiest football to watch? Not necessarily. I actually find myself enjoying a lot more often WSL matches or the Champions League matches. I think are quite fun over there. So, but it's just this weird feud with it, and it's like, and they're just different styles. It's not really it's kind of apples to oranges. So, I don't know. A lot of weird NWSL hate, but the NWSL is chaotic. It's messy. You know, players that have a lot of like, you know, pace and power tend to thrive in this league because it's not really about possession. It's again kind of messy. So we'll see, but we're getting more and more players from Europe coming to the NWSL. So we'll enjoy it while it lasts. I don't know that this is going to be long term like the top league for women's soccer, but at least yesterday, most on the field.
Yeah. Let's see.
All right, so that turns us a little bit to talking about 2027. Where do we go from here with the U.S. women's national team? So, as we talked about a little bit with the bronze medal match, Europe has the Euros in 2025. The U.S. women's national team does not have another major tournament set before 2027 World Cup. Do not tell me the She Believes Cup counts. That is not. That is a revenue generator. That is what that is. It is not a real tournament, especially when you're never going to see European teams at it again. If we did another W Gold Cup, I would love that. I think that was a super fun, again, messy tournament, but it was great. I would like to see it marketed appropriately, and I think we could actually do something with it. Or, you know, or we could do Copa, because I think there is a Copa for the women between now and 2027, and then invite some of the top CONCACAF teams, as we did for Gold Cup. So I think that would all be fun. And it could especially be fun. I don't know where W Copa is. I haven't looked into this too much, but if it's in Brazil, it could be nice to get used to playing in South America ahead of the 2027 World Cup in Brazil.
Oh, there you go.
So, but if that doesn't happen, here's the conversation with the U.S. women's national team. Is everything, and even if it does happen, I think that's just like a good, like challenging outing for us. It's not going to be like a goal, but all eyes are on the 2027 World Cup. The roster has to be built for 2027. So as we go for U.S. women's national team call-ups, if it is not a player who is going to be in contention for 2027, they should not be here at this point. And that means of players on this Olympic roster that I think are probably out of contention and are probably, we're going to be moving on. And I think, again, there are anomalies. There are players who do play at the World Cup and have for the U.S. women's national team at 36 and 37. But do I think they should, in an ideal world where you're rebuilding, be part of that plan? Probably not. So on the Olympic roster, I think that means Crystal Dunn is done. She's 32. Casey Kruger is 33. Lynn Williams is 31. I think of them, she's got the best shot at still sneaking in. But, you know, was someone that was on the cusp, was a literal alternate on this roster. So I think you can probably say goodbye to those three players moving forward. And if that's the case, I'd be surprised to see them get called in even to friendlies, unless it's just really for, you know, a changing of the guard. Then the players from the World Cup rosters, and I say rosters because some of them are not 2023, but you all ask me about them constantly. So I'm going to still mention some of these people, but these are the folks that I think are not coming back here. So Kristen Press and Tobin Heath are not coming back to the U.S. women's national team. Yeah. I'm sorry. Kristen Press is barely back to Angel City. She is doing better than expected, but she is 35 years old. She'll be 38 in 2027. She is not coming back to the U.S. women's national team. Tobin Heath has not set foot on the pitch in years. There's no real timeline to her coming back if she does come back. Again, we'll be very close to 40 in 2027, so I don't think that makes sense either. So I'm sorry to people whose hearts these things break, but that's what's happening. Kelly O'Hara has announced she is retiring. She is not coming back to the U.S. women's national team. So even if she was not retiring, I don't think she'd be coming back. Becky Sauerbrunn has announced that she believes her time with the U.S. women's national team is over. She said earlier this week on the women's game that chapter is over. So again, not surprising. I think her chapter, I mean, it was visibly over USA versus Mexico in Gold Cup rather. So she's gone. Then I think Abby Dahlkemper's time with the team is probably also done. So, you know, a little bit younger, could get back in there in theory, but I just think, you know, if you've fallen down the depth chart the way that she has a little bit, and again, kudos to Abby for coming back from an injury I did not think she was coming back from. She had a transforaminal lumbar fusion. There is metal in her spine. And she's playing again. Yeah. That is, I was shocked that she even came back. So, you know, great work, great player, but I don't see her being part of the plans long term. And then there's of course Alex Morgan.
Yeah, I was gonna say hello. Yeah. What about Alex Morgan?
We're getting there. We're getting there. So is Alex Morgan ever coming back to the U.S. women's national team? I don't think so. She'll be 38 at the 2027 World Cup. Is it possible? Sure. And it's especially possible at the position she plays. But, all those central positions, especially up top and in center back, you can play those longer because there just tends to be a little less mileage. You have to be a little bit more careful about your positioning because you lose the pace as you get older. But, it is possible. I don't think she's done playing necessarily. I think she will keep playing for San Diego Wave. I just don't see how she gets back into this roster, given the focus has to be on 2027. Could she get back on this roster quality-wise the next year or two? Yeah. But is she going to be there in 2027? I think the odds are low enough that I just don't see us spending the time on her. But, could be wrong. Big player, a lot of legacy here. I'd love to be wrong. So, and that's what I will say about any of these players is this is not me being a hater. This is just, I would love to be wrong. Yeah. So, I really would. The exception, the big exception is Alyssa Nair, who is already mid-30s. And goalkeepers get to play longer because they don't have to run. And in fact, in their mid-30s, they are often hitting their stride and in peak form. So if Alyssa Nair would like to still be on the roster in 2027, I think she can be. If she would like to move on, I also think that makes sense because at some point, that's still a long time to have been a professional athlete. And it's a demanding job. And maybe she wants to go do whatever Alyssa Nair wants to do otherwise. So, but that is her spot to hand over when she's ready, I think, at this point.
Okay.
So a few cusp players as well. So these are players that I think are not quite old, but are going to be getting there. I know. And I hate people always like, your age is
real. No, it's just...
It's the job. You are, as a soccer player, at most positions, your peak is 24 to 29. That's what it is. And that's who we should be looking at as players who are going to be in that age range for 2027. There will be outliers. There will be people in their 30s on this roster. But in terms of what we do right now, that's the part of the pool that has to get built out. So I think that being said, Lindsay Horan, Emily Sonnet, and Rose Lavelle are all on the cusp as well. Lindsay Horan just turned 30. Emily Sonnet just turned 30. Rose Lavelle just turned 29. So they absolutely could be in contention for 2027. We could be looking beyond them. And I do think you need to look still at alternatives because you don't know what that's going to look like as they get older. So, that's a big part of the pool that needs to be redeveloped for many reasons. And what I think is going to be interesting here is I don't think Emma Hayes had anywhere near as much involvement in developing the player pool when she was at Chelsea, like with the US Women's national team. When we were like, oh, Emma's in their ear, Emma's talking. I don't think Emma actually did have that much involvement or that much time to do that. So we're going to see here. I think you're going to see with Emma getting to put her full, time into actually looking at players. I think we're going to see a lot of new folks coming into camp or a lot of folks we haven't seen in a while because she's going to get more time to scout. She's going to be able to do so more broadly. And she's going to be looking at, again, not just who can help me win the Olympics real quick here. Who's free for the next 6 weeks? Who can do it? Versus, who do I think I can build around in 2027? What parts of this pool do I need to strengthen? Where do we need to really make sure we're looking for players? So that's going to be really exciting, I think. Which, speaking of that excitement, Lily Johanna has reposted the gold medal win. And that's the most exciting young player for me. So that was good.
Okay.
We don't want her to go to the Netherlands. We want her to play for us.
Yes.
So that's the excitement. And the other question about all this is, will there be a send-off game for the old guard? I do not think so. I think there could be, but I think the days of send-off games for players, I think that's gone. Just because there's going to be so many of them. And I think you're going to see slowly now players move on from playing with the national team at an earlier age than they move on from playing entirely. So that's a rougher conversation.
Yeah.
Few other news and notes, and then you can all go back about your day. USL Super League starts this weekend. That is the other Division I sanctioned league within U.S. soccer in the U.S. These teams finally have rosters. They have logos. They have coaches, all at varying levels. Most of these teams have at least a couple of very recent NWSL players or players that were drafted to NWSL teams and then that get picked up. So I think the level will actually be quite high. But they literally start playing on, I believe on August 17th. So they are right back into it. I'll be very curious to see what this looks like. I don't know how much I'm going to cover it. I do want to talk about it at least a little bit, but there's a lot of footy to talk about already. So
Gotta make some hard choices.
I know, we do. I still think Brooklyn's team logo looks like somebody had a cousin with graphic design aspirations.
Oh boy, I'll have to look that up.
Yeah, it's like, I think the rest of their merch is really cool, but the logo itself is like not my favorite. It's not good. It's not good. So, and then NWSL does not actually return for 2 more weeks, which is great for these players to get a rest. But of course, next weekend, we do have Arsenal and Chelsea coming for friendlies against Gotham and Washington Spirit to the US. So, and then they will also play an exhibition against each other. So you will have, and then Barcelona comes and plays the AFC. So there's a whole bunch of friendlies happening the next week or so. I think that the players that have been at the Olympics this late, like I don't think Emily Fox is going to go be part of Arsenal's training next week. I hope she's like on a beach somewhere.
Yeah.
Or off doing like something nerdy. She's like a big nerd. Everybody just wanted her to go in New Zealand to get to like do the Hobbit tour. And I don't think she got to do that. Or maybe she did. I forget if she did. But I hope that she gets to like go read some fantasy novels or whatever she wants to do in her downtime. So with NWSL, so there's just the friendlies next week, which I'm sure everybody will be paying attention to a lot because of Arsenal and Chelsea. WSL does not start up again until late September. And there will be Champions League as well, qualifiers for Arsenal at the beginning of September. So a little bit of time there, but we will be taking a slight hiatus because I don't think there's going to be anything to talk about this week. But we will see you when NWSL returns. And I don't know what format this is going to take, but we're going to figure that out.
Yeah.
I think. Or we won't. And it'll just be a fun little project we did during the Olympics. But I think we will. I'm just kidding with you all. We'll definitely be back on here. So, yeah. Thanks for listening as usual. If you haven't already, like, subscribe, follow wherever you get podcasts or on YouTube. Following, don't think it takes really much effort from you, and it helps us monetize to the extent we do, which is always wonderful. I think, so I'm not sure, it depends on the metric for the number 2 soccer podcast in Kenya. I will tell you right now. I have not done some digging. It is specifically on Apple Podcasts only, not on Spotify or like the podcast. It's just the Apple Podcast. And on the 30-day count, we are still the number 2 new soccer podcast in Kenya, so 50 those in Kenya. But on like the daily, like the 24-hour, we fluctuate a lot.
Oh.
But we also, excitingly, on the 30-day, got all the way up to the number 25 spot in the US.
Somehow, I saw that.
Which was, I don't, thank you to everyone listening over there. I think there's got to be something funky about how this metric is being counted because I don't know. But you know what? We take the accolades where we find them. So yeah, why not? Like we're fun. Everybody likes to listen to, again, the weird frolics about Walnut Creek. Thank you as always for listening, and we will see you next time.
Bye.